Hello, lovelies. So, this is Vlogging in the Dark with Jen, and as you can see, it's fucking bright in here. I have a limited amount of time, but I wanted to send out a video on Valentine's Day. I think Valentine's Day is kind of an annoying holiday. It's a little commercialized, let's say. Um, So instead of talking about like what you should be receiving as gifts or what you should be giving as gifts, I wanted to talk about something that can give you a lot of self-love. And I find this exercise to be really helpful when I'm feeling anxious. So the thing is, I've tried to do it since my eye condition started about 2 years ago, but I haven't been able to. I'm looking to find new ways of doing this because it's really helpful to me. So I thought I'd share it with you. So it's coloring. And I know that there was this big craze and everyone was like, oh my God, how annoying, adults coloring. But I have to tell you, the research has actually shown that coloring for 10 or 15 minutes can actually get your head into the same sort of brainwave space that you would experience if you're meditating. So if you're someone who has difficulty meditating, try something like this. So I'm going to give you some different options, what I did in the beginning and then what I progressed to and then kind of where I am now. So in the beginning, I was downloading things off of a website called Don't Eat the Paste. Oh, okay. We're having a guest over here. My cat is wandering around. So anyway, these are primarily mandalas. So I'm trying to find a nice bright one to show you right here. So here's one with little fishies, right? Um, And honestly, like just focusing on like a little area, right? Like just this fish and just coloring all the little scales on the fish. Looking at this, it looked like I did this with colored pencils. So not very expensive, nothing super fancy. Sorry, I keep being distracted by the cat. Um, I did some of these in crayons. So I'm trying to find like a good crayon one. I like this one. It's mostly shades of purple and gray and black. And, the idea is not to race through this. The idea is to take your time and come back to it if you need to. I would never finish this whole thing in one sitting. Um, but it really has been this was very calming to me. I started coloring when I went to a day program after I had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. So I found that this was like really relaxing. So, like I said, most of these mandalas came off a website called Don't Eat the Paste. And they just were an easy way for me to relax myself. And I would basically color one thing a night. Here's another one, another mandala. And I really, really liked it. I was using crayons and colored pencils mostly. So then I started to get interested in coloring more, and I started buying books. And like you can buy these at pretty much any craft store. They don't have to be super expensive. Just kind of flip through them and see if you like the images because obviously if you don't, then it's no fun. This is one of my favorite pieces, this beautiful purple flower. You can see it's quite intricate. Um, but I just love the colors of purple and blue together. And I threw in some turquoise. So it's a really nice way especially if you love color and you want to play with color, this is a really great way to do this. Then I started to get into some really kind of detailed work. So this is an example of one of those things where you have to start buying like special pens with a really fine tip because if you can see on this, it's very detail oriented. So it's really hard to color it with crayons, right? They're not quite sharp enough. So um, this is actually one of my favorites and one of my prides because this is just done with regular crayon. But it's those two birds in the flowers, and I find with crayon that you can do like layers upon layers, and then like blend it together, and then kind of color really hard, and then scrape away. So you think about all those things that you used to do when you were in art class, right? And um, and so I just really started to get into it. So then, as a gift, I got this really beautiful book. Now, if you're not someone who's really into like this kind of fine coloring because you don't feel like if it's not perfect you'll get angry, don't choose this author. So this book, Lost Ocean, is a book, a coloring book, and the name is Joanna Basford, and she actually does a one that's Harry Potter as well, which I would have loved to color, but I don't think that's going to happen now. But you can see like inside the details are really like intense. I don't know if you can see that line drawing, but it is really intense. And let me show you some of the ones that I colored from this book. So this is when my eye was still good, but I was getting better at coloring. So you can see like, the Celtic knot of these serpents. And then this was kind of a sea mandala. Lost Ocean is obviously about, you know, ocean scenes. So this is another one of them. And I actually really like this one. I'm really quite proud of this one. Um, so yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed doing it. It was really calming. And then I started to play around with something that, hi, this is my cat. You want to come over and say hi to our lovelies? Hi. You're facing the wrong way. You have to look that way. Yeah, good girl. This is Billy. She's 17, so we've been girlfriends for a long time. She's named after Billie Holiday because she cried all the way home when I brought her home. And she really has the most beautiful cries I've ever heard. She's always so sad. She's singing the blues. So I called her Billy. And she's my baby still, even though she's an elderly baby. And now she's purring like a crazy person and I can barely see you. Yay for no editing. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is, hey, why don't you sit on your nice table over here? We have a nice table set up for her in the sun. There's a heater underneath and like double blankets on top so she can be all cozy. I strongly recommend cats as a pet. They're very sweet and they're about as high maintenance as, I don't know, they're not high maintenance at all. She's a little more needy now that she's older, but she's my baby. And I just love her. So I'm kind of glad that she wandered into our scene today. Say hello to her. All right, Bubby. So why don't you lay down? I was putting my things on her table, so you can imagine how annoying that is. So anyway, so I started to get into these like really intricate colorings, and that's a lot of work. So if you find that a little stressful, then I started to play around with watercolors because that was something that my husband had gifted to me. Now, they're not true watercolors in the sense that they're just like, palette with water. They're actually crayons that you can kind of shade light and dark. And then you wet the paintbrush and you start to blend the colors. So you can kind of see. So here's some of my watercolors. A bearded iris, which I grow these in my garden, so this one's rather special to me. I think this is one of the first ones I did. So you can see that like it has some contrast, but it's not super bright. Then I started to play around with some of the Joanna Basford detail pieces and made them a little just more, not quite as detailed. So we did some jellyfish here. I also did, and I like this one too, sunflowers. And again, this was all done with watercolor. And we have our little owls. I love owls. I think they are so sweet. I don't know. No, I guess you can't see behind me. Let me see if I can turn this way. No, it's not on that side. It's on the other side. Oh, you can't really see him. Okay, so that was anticlimactic. My husband gave me a pop figure of Hedwig from Harry Potter. You know, he's the snowy white owl. Um, so I really like owls. So I had a lot of fun doing this one. Um, they're really sweet. And I think this was the last watercolor I did of the two seahorses. So, um, and then I had my eye issues began. And it became really difficult to do any kind of coloring. This was the last piece that I had been coloring, and then I had to stop. You can see I did the bottom part here and a lot of the detail of the seaweed, but when it came to like the coral up here, I just have not been able to tackle that. I had done a little bit of the coloring with the bad eye, but it just doesn't work very well. So we'll see if I ever finish this one. The other recommendation that I wanted to give you for books, and I think we found this one at Joann's, although I'm not entirely sure. But I really liked this because these are vintage patterns. So I just found this really fun to work with because you're basically looking at like old forms of wallpaper and things like that, right? Like old tapestries, patterns that you might find on things like your like old furniture, right? That have all those flowers. I just loved working on this, and I thought I had pulled a piece to show you, and now I don't know where it is. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of the pile, and I wonder if it's in my folder over there. It might be. Put this one aside. I think I must have left it out. Oh, that's very sad. Because you can really play around with colors, and of course, if you know anything about like vintage patterns of wallpaper, sometimes some of the combination colors were like totally whacked. So you can really have a lot of fun with these, and also you can see that some of them are very detailed, and then some of them are not so much. So um, like I said, I really enjoy using crayons and colored pencils, but because of where I am, oh, this is just so fabulous. Look at this. It's like totally fabulous, like 60s balls. So anyway, what I'm thinking about is I'm missing this creative outlet that I used to have. So I'm thinking about more of using the watercolors. So, because it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can see like even on this, like there's definitely blending that goes outside the lines, and I think it's because it's a watercolor, it's actually quite beautiful, and I don't mind it so much. So, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. Now, I printed these, I think, over a year ago now, but the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is birding, released some pictures that you could print off. So, for example, like they gave you the visual of the black-capped chickadee, right? And then you have a blank one of the black-capped chickadees. So I think what I'm going to do between now and I don't know when is tackle one of these. So my question for you is, I could do the black-capped chickadee, right? Super cute, seen mostly all over the United States because I'm a really big birder. And then there's the absolutely gorgeous wood duck, right? This is the male wood duck. And he's just so colorful and beautiful. So I have a couple options, and I want you to vote, okay, in the comments below. You're going to vote and tell me which ones you want. So the other option is I can color some hummingbirds, maybe in homage to Fagsy. This is a possibility. So this is the picture that I would be coloring. And then the last option, which I've actually never seen in real life. So this is the thing. I have seen a ruby-throated hummingbird in real life. They are not indigenous to my area, but they do migrate to the northeast in the summertime. So I always have a hummingbird feeder, and I actually have a garden of flowers that attract butterflies and hummingbirds. So I've seen this, and I've seen the wood duck, and I've also seen the black-capped chickadee. The last bird is a bird I've actually never seen before. I'm not entirely sure where they're native to, but they're so beautiful. They're called a painted bunting. And I would die to see this bird in the wild. So I don't really know which one I should try. Oh, and I wanted to mention that this book is actually able to be bought. It's called America's Favorite Birds, and there are 40 pictures in the book, and it's made by the Cornell Lab Publishing Group, and that is part of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So if you like birds, and you feel like spending a little bit of money on a coloring book, you can do that. But what I want to know is like, what should I color? And I'm going to use watercolors. So it's going to have like a much lighter, it's not going to be as detail oriented, but you know, this is a nice example of like what a watercolor might end up looking like. So, what I want to know from you, my lovelies, is which one should I watercolor? Haven't done it in a while. I'm probably going to do it in segments so I don't upset my eye. But I will make a list underneath my video, and you tell me, do you think that I should color the painted bunting, which I have never yet seen in the wild? Should I color the black-capped chickadee, who is a frequent visitor to my feeders in the wintertime and in the summer? Should I color the beautiful male wood duck with all of his fabulous colors? Or should I color the ruby-throated hummingbird? So, that is for you to decide. I can't wait to see what you choose. Apparently, Billy wants to say goodbye to you. So, say goodbye to our friends. You have to look up this way. Excuse me. She's far more interested in being petted than paying attention to you. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And, you know, I shared these because this was something I loved to do. And I think that Valentine's Day should be about love, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about romantic love. I think that the most important love is love of self. Um, so, yeah. I think it's important to do things that make you happy and things that bring you joy. And I'm someone who really loves color. This is coming from this person who wore black twice, 2 videos in a row. But I really love color and I like to play with it. And I perhaps am not very creative in my clothing choices, but I really do love color around my house and in my life. And this is a way to bring a little color to a dark place. And like I said, it is a very calming experience. And if you only have like 4 or 5 crayons that you got from whatever, Red Heat Tavern or Applebee's or whatever, Applebee's. Actually, I used to, an old flame and I used to call it Applebes, the Greek god of incredibly average chain cooking. Which I thought was always very funny. Applebes, the Greek god of terrible food. Um, if you only have like 5 crayons, go online and go to Don't Eat the Paste. And, hell, go to the library and print out like one picture that you really like and see if you enjoy doing it. It doesn't have to be an expensive hobby. You don't have to spend a lot of money on pens, although, um, when the holidays roll around, I used to get a lot of pens. I still have loads of pens that I don't know if I'll get any use out of, but that's okay. So yeah, I would give it a try if you've never done it before, because like I said, I really find it to be a form of self-care. Um, and in a world where apparently the entire legislature of Virginia um, has been in blackface, um, and you're just driven mad by the insane politics of the United States or whatever country you live in, I just find coloring to be really soothing, relaxing. And again, if you want to do something that has a lot of detail, you just work for 10 minutes on one segment and then you can come back to it. And again, I just, I love it and I miss it. And so I'm trying to use this as a jumping off point. Number one, to maybe encourage you to try it if you're someone who has anxiety issues or if you're just looking to do something a little different. Get some colored pencils or grab a box of your kids' Crayola crayons and even just color in the coloring book with them. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when kids sit and color, it really does bring their, usually I notice that with younger kids, it really relaxes them. And like I said, there's scientific evidence to show that when you do color, if you color for more than like 15 or 20 minutes, you can get into a sort of meditative state and you do feel very different, much calmer than you did before. So I recommend it heartily. And that's going to be my video for Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoyed the video and kiss kiss to all of you. I will talk to you later.